So for us, this is about the start of the campaign for justice for the Fortnum and Mason's defendants, that we want to make sure that every single one of the 138 people who face charges, that those charges are dropped.
And people were told that they were going to be free to leave, and yet on leaving, people were kettled, they were arrested individually, taken to cells, they were strip searched, had their clothes and phones confiscated from them, held for up to 24 hours and then dumped in different parts of London, having been charged with aggravated trespass. This is for an entirely peaceful occupation of the supermarket for the rich to expose the £40 million tax evasion by the owners of Fortnum and Mason's.
People, this was their very first protest, and we have to be very clear and very careful and totally supportive of these people, and to make sure that we show them that they should keep on protesting, that this shouldn't deter them, that political policing, which is designed to thwart protest, is designed to prevent people from coming out into the streets and reclaiming the streets, that this doesn't happen, that protest continues. So there are three core demands of the 145 campaign. The first one is that all the charges are dropped. The second one is an end to political policing and a defence of the right to protest. And the third is to highlight the cuts, is to put the cuts agenda back into the public sphere and to show people that there is an alternative.
On Adam from the Defend the Brian Simpson campaign, who's a student who has been charged with violent disorder simply for occupying the Tory Party HQ. So over to Adam.
It's very important that we show solidarity towards all those that are facing arrest, that are facing victimisation. It's one of the most important things we have, is our solidarity with each other. I'm here from the Defend Brian Simpson campaign up in Glasgow. He was one of the student protesters at Millbank that occupied Tory HQ. He can't be with us today because he's facing bail conditions that restrict his movement in Westminster. But I've been asked by Brian and the rest of his defence campaign team in Glasgow to read a brief statement on his behalf. The 24th of November, Strathclyde student Brian Simpson, leading anti-cuts activist, was dawn-raided and arrested by 5 Metropolitan Police officers at his home in Glasgow over his involvement at Millbank student fees protest on the 10th of November. After being arrested at around 6 AM, Brian was driven in handcuffs to a police station in Cumbria, over 200 miles away from his home. After being questioned for almost 9 hours, Brian was released without charge and told to make his own way home, having had his mobile phone and laptop confiscated by officers. For the last 6 months, Brian's freedom has been curtailed by bail conditions which restrict him from entering parts of London, why he's not able to be here today. Despite not committing any damage, assault, endangering anyone's safety, Brian has been told he faces a very serious charge of violent disorder, which if found guilty is a maximum sentence of 5 years imprisonment.
We had 7 of our people arrested on the day of the wedding. Now, the action that we were planning was a zombie flash mob. It was meant to be fun, not threatening in any way. In fact, we actually got permission and liaised with one of the groups that were organising a street party in Soho Square, the Edge, and they gave us permission and they knew exactly what we were about. So we weren't about being threatening. So seeing all of the pre-arrests made people scared.
In the context of our work at Christian Can, we've come across the utilisation of tactics by the police which raise concerns for the right to protest. They infringe upon the right to protest and the right to privacy, and they infringe upon freedoms of expression, movement and assembly. Some of those involve photographing of protesters, the use of kettling, we've already heard, use of kettling not only to detain protesters but to get their personal details.
10th of November, our national president took a very bad decision in saying that it was a small and violent minority which stormed Millbank, which laid siege on the Tory party headquarters. But within our own national union, the tide was against him because we affiliated to the Defend the Right to Protest campaign, and we stood shoulder to shoulder with all those people under attack by the police who were having their houses raided in the early dawns of the morning and who were being victimized by the media. And the thing is that the Fortnum and Mason's occupation highlighted something very important. It highlighted the fact that protesting has become mainstream. It highlighted the fact that there is an alternative to the system we are currently exposed to. It highlighted the very fact that there's an alternative to austerity. And the thing is that after the Fortnum and Mason's occupation, I was asked by the media, so what would you have done if you were the police? What I would have done is, I would have locked up the bankers who have got £9 billion in bonuses. I would have locked up the tax evaders of Vodafone.
With youth unemployment, 16 to 25-year-old unemployment, about the 1 million mark, over 1 million now, by far the highest rate of unemployment among any age group in the country. It is a disgrace that the government is closing down education opportunities rather than doing what they're doing in other countries and expanding those opportunities for young people. That is what these protests are about. That is why we demand the right to protest peacefully. That is why we demand the right to occupy buildings belonging to people who avoid and evade paying their tax. Because if that tax were collected, if that tax were paid, then it's almost true to say that the financial crisis would disappear overnight. There would be no need for tuition fees of £9,000. There would be no need to withdraw the education maintenance allowance. And the young people of this country would be able to enjoy